D-Day was a turning part in the Second World War. The Allied powers consisting of USA, the USSR, Great Britain, and France were about to storm the beach of Normandy in June of 1944, but not after a lot of brain power and hard work put in by countless generals and leaders throughout the world. The Axis powers consisting of Germany, Italy, and Japan had taken over much of Europe and weren't showing signs of stopping soon. The Allies had put about 2 years of planning into this with several date changes and advancements in the war. We are about to give you a live interview of General Brandon Christopher Ryll of the United States Army about his experiences during and before D-Day.
Thank you for joining us on our show tonight. We are going to ask you a series of questions relating to your experiences in D-Day. Answer them as truthfully as possible and give as many details.
Thank you for having me on your show. Hopefully I can educate everyone watching about my experience of D-Day.
On that note, let me ask you your first question. Can you tell us a little about how the beaches of Normandy were decided?
Well, by 1943, most of Europe was controlled by Germans and its allies, including France and the Cherbourg port, which was essential to winning the war. This port was necessary for transporting supplies, troops, and equipment, as well as preventing the enemy from acquiring reinforcements. General Eisenhower himself made this decision.
So once the date was decided, what happened after that? Where'd y'all go?
So, after they decided on the date to invade, they told everyone to prepare for battle and that we were going to storm the beaches of Normandy on June 6, 1944.
What did getting prepared consist of? What did you guys have to do? What did you guys do in your daily routine that was changed?
Well, we had to put on all of our war clothes, of course, such as our jackets, long, thick pants, and boots. Then, we had to get our weapons, the M1 Grand, which was the only semi-automatic rifle in the battle. Everyone also had to wear wristwatches. These helped us keep track of when a bomb was going to go off, so we wouldn't kill friendlies.
So what kind of vehicles did you guys see or ride in?
Well, we used a lot of new equipment. The better known vehicle used is the landing crafts. These were boats that transported basically everything. They're also destroyers and other battleships out a ways in the ocean, bombarding the beach. In the skies, there were a ton of planes that were keeping the German air forces away.
Grenades were also carried by each troop, and for the time they were very powerful.
Take place in 1943. Instead, we decided to capture Sicily. The target date was then moved to May 1st to May 31st so that the preparation could be made. The date was then moved to June 5th based on favorable moonlight and tide conditions, then lastly changed to June 6th.
So what kind of vehicles did you guys see driving down the road or flying above you? Or maybe you even rode in it?
Well, we used a lot of new equipment. The better known vehicle used is the landing crafts. These were boats that transported basically everything. There were also destroyers and other battleships out of ways in the ocean bombarding the beach. In the skies, there were a ton of planes that were keeping the German air forces away and taking out bigger targets. The planes were the Spitfire, Mustang, and Thunderbolt. There were many other vehicles used, but these were the best known.
What kind of troop were you, or what vehicle did you drive or operate?
Well, I did not drive any vehicle. I rode up onto the beach in a landing craft. In the craft, I was also in a 2.5-ton truck.
The 2.5-ton truck was very commonly used to get off the landing craft.
I was one of the lucky ones. There were a lot of people who had to get out on foot. My role was being general.
What did you do when you were a general?
When you're a general, you have to give commands to your troop. You are also in charge of keeping your troop alive.
What was the Battle of Normandy on June 6, 1944, also called D-Day, like?
It was awful. Getting to the beach was bloody, and there were millions of bodies floating in the water. As soon as you arrived at the beach, you were most likely to be lit up. With fire coming from all directions, I had my friend fighting right next to me. As I turned to look at him, a grenade landed in front of us. All of a sudden, He picks it up and tries to throw it, but just as he is about to throw the grenade, he is struck by gunfire. I dove away from where he was standing and was luckily not injured as I was expecting to be. I could not believe that I had just seen my friend get killed. I was in a daze for a couple of seconds. Then another soldier held me up. Explosions were going off everywhere. My gun was the highest powered rifle at the time, so I started shooting all of the Germans that I saw. We were coming over a hill, and on the other side was a bunker. We went into the bunker, but came upon an enemy that tried to stab me with his knife. I was luckily stronger and able to overpower him. I took the knife and killed him with it. I still remember it like it was yesterday. He was the first person I had ever killed.
What happened after you entered the bunker?
We were lucky there wasn't more troops in the bunker, or we would have been in big trouble. We weren't sure, so we took extra precaution going through the zigzag design. We would peek the corner to make sure there wasn't any troops there, and then move forward. Eventually, we made it to no man's land, which was anywhere from 50 to 250 yards from the other bunkers. No man's land was also covered with landmines and barbed wire. We knew this ahead of time, so we knew not to cross there. Crossing there would mean death immediately, so we found a different route into enemy territory.
As you were walking through the woods, were you ever afraid of any surprise attacks by any other peoples?
Not at all. We had snipers set up in the trees. They were some of the best trained soldiers in the entire army.
Was there any point in time during D-Day that you ever thought you were going to lose, or you were losing too many men?
Why yes, multiple times during the war. In the back of my mind, I had thought that we were going to lose. I saw how many troops we were losing, and I couldn't see us keeping it up much longer. Our men were getting worn out, they were exhausted, and I know lots of them wanted to quit. However, they held strong, and we fought our way to their territory, gradually taking out their men. This led to our victory.
At what point in time did you know or think you knew that you were winning?
This is a tough question, but in my opinion, I didn't really notice. We started winning until they actually retreated on the night of June 30th, 1944. They put up heavy resistance and didn't look like they were going to surrender anytime soon. We had better strategies than they did, and that's what I think helped us win the war the most.
Approximately, how many men do you think were lost on D-Day?
Well, the number, I think, was about 425,000 on both sides that were killed or wounded. Some of those went missing, and I still don't know what happened to them. Truthfully, I am not entirely sure, but that was definitely a good estimate of how many were lost.
Does D-Day still haunt you? Like, I know this is a really personal question, so if you don't want to answer this, that's totally okay.
No, the question is fine, don't worry about it. Well, my answer to that would be yes, it does still haunt me sometimes. Sometimes I remember some of my friends dying, and it really does affect me. But I try to ignore the thought. It doesn't really happen all that often, but when it does, it really bothers me. Lately, though, it doesn't happen that much, at least not as much as before.
Max, General Ryll, Brandon, Extra Editor, Declan, Interviewer Extra, Lewis, Camera and Sound Staff, Tony, Extra, Cameraman, Alex, Narrator.
Is there any point at Tony just hit my head.
on my nipple! Ah!